Hey, we're back!
We're back, baby. Oh no, that's what I was going to launch into song then. I didn't realise what I was doing. Hello, my friend. Hello, my Colombian friend. How are you?
Everything's good here in Colombia. Hey, talking about Colombian friends, special shout out to Alex Evans, who, since he was kidnapped in Colombia, maybe 6-7 months ago, has not been seen since.
It seems amazing, doesn't it? He's just stayed down there for some reason. And thanks for keep sending me that shampoo, by the way, Alex. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine.
I'll bring yours around
all night. Good morning, everybody.
What are you doing this morning?
I just want to welcome all our listeners, and I do know a lot of you complained that 10 a.m. on a Sunday is normal morning worship time. So we're going to go for a bit of a songs of praise type thing, aren't we, Whaley?
We are. What was it? Sexy and you know it. I'm sexy and I know it. Yeah, Tom McGee in the house.
Good morning, Facebook user.
Yeah, generic Facebook user. That's a bit Cambridge Analytica, isn't it? That must be our similar audience advertising paying off.
Oh, Jerry Lyons is at church. I hope only for individual prayer, Mr. Lyons. Good morning, everybody. What did I do to prepare for today's show? Well, I've got to tell you my usual high level of research involved watching an episode of the Estate Agents podcast.
We're going to do Wait a minute, David. Let me just get my notes. Okay, then. So, mail shots. I'm not doing mail shots. Mail shots are fucking boring.
Wait. There was a very interesting piece on the size of the envelopes that Luke sends his newsletters out in.
Go on. I don't remember that.
A4.
A4.
A4. Just standard size, standard color, A4.
Okay. Yeah, it was good. I actually really enjoyed trolling their show. It was unusually, I think, constructive. It's good to start the day off, isn't it? Getting at someone.
I have to say that whatever they're doing and whatever everybody's doing to keep this industry full of free content, it's got to be admired. Come on.
You're not going to do one of those speeches, are you? Oh, we're all in this together. Bullshit. It's only you and me. We made this happen. We're the ones keeping this going. They're just hanging on to our coattails.
I don't want to be a nerd, but you mean C4. Yeah, look, I don't know the different sizes of envelopes because I don't believe in envelopes. When Mintz sends out a mail shot, he ties it to a brick and chucks it through your window.
It's the Salford way. C4, isn't that an explosive, Tom? I hope you're not talking about encouraging. You're not one of those anti-vaxxers, are you? That's going to start blowing up the state just because you're trying to have an injection.
Tom's a very level-headed person. I've got to thank him for his comments this week on our various different posts. He's got a unique sense of humour. Oh, Overman's got to take the tone down, hasn't he?
What?
Overman. Got to take the tone down first thing in the morning. This is a Christian show, Overman. Please. Yeah.
Don't come ruining other people's shows. That's just unpolite or impolite, I think the English would be.
It's a low blow. Good morning, Mr. Whale. I just want to say how much I am enjoying your recent, and I've got to be careful where to insert the comma here, but you've been doing mental health posts. So it's mental, comma, health posts.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit tricksy, and it's good. It's good. You need a clown cheering you up every day, don't you? So, it's not obviously. It's not even every day, is it? I couldn't even make 3 consecutive days of posting them.
I mean, some people have compared you to the sort of likes of industry thought leaders such as Sean Newman, who
he's out there doing
posts here and there, doesn't he?
We are very similar, me and Sean, in many ways. We have 2 arms, 2 legs. Where we differ is his whole view towards exercise and eating well. I will not eat well. It is What's the point in living if you're going to eat well? That's outrageous.
Jerry Lyons, if you offered anti-vaxxers a £20 Amazon voucher, those dumb mothers would be rolling up their sleeves with glee.
Oh, he knows his audience well. Actually, it's not his audience. Fuck off, Jerry. Stop trying to run the show. Right, so, anti-vaxxers, Jerry. Anti-vaxxers, let me do a Whaley's morning rant. They can literally go fuck themselves. These are the people that I was having a big spat with one who's a quite well-known industry Manchester businessman over here, and he's obviously going in for all of that. Look, if you don't want to have that vax, to a degree, it's fine because Darwinism will take care of you and your family. The problem is if you, because of your selfishness, go and infect somebody else and you kill them, then I believe firmly that you should be done for manslaughter because you've totally absconded yourself from any responsibility in terms of doing that. So if you do not want to take the vaccine, that's fine. Just announce yourself on social media. And if you or your family, your friends and your closest get ill, don't turn up at a hospital. That's it, okay?
Wow.
Hello.
That's and let's not forget polio wasn't the best of looks in the world, was it?
No.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember that shit. There was always one kid with a really big shoe or something. We don't need that anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah, mind you, it did put a load of one shoemakers out of business. So again, it's a bit unfortunate. Someone has to lose. Someone has to lose for someone to win. Very true.
Very true. So, talking about losers, have you been following the Priti Patel story in the news?
Yeah, she's lovely, isn't she? Not content with breaking the ministerial code once, she doubles down and comes back and says, "What are you going to do, Boris? You can't get rid of me again because then it makes it look like it's your problem."
What gets me is I don't mind people being an out and out bastard.
Yeah,
but
I know.
At least pretend to be nice. She actively sort of scowls at the cameras and she goes out of her way to look like somebody that would bully you.
Yeah.
And
not in a good way. Not in a good way.
Hey?
Not in a good way.
not in the sort of way where you've paid her £100 for the half hour and you've got a safety word in place.
Yeah. Although I have heard some people remark that they think she's a bit of a dish.
I think she's attractive as far as things go, but I find very stern, bossy women attractive. It's just that's you like
the ones that say, "David, you're shit, you're useless, you're worthless."
My absolute property wet dream is being allowed to show Kirsty from Kirsty and Phil around the house while she berates me for the house not being up to standards.
I tell you what would be even better there. Combine that with that Super Hoarders program. David, you haven't tidied the room.
Oh, I'd love that. Or Anthea Turner coming round to, clean up my ensuite after a particularly heavy sesh.
Okay, now, hang on a minute now. You're breaking the fourth wall of our WhatsApp group. That stays separate. The world's not ready for that yet. Keep it over there.
Is Anthea Turner on our WhatsApp group?
Oh, you might not be in that group. Sorry, move on.
Oh, dear. Right. I believe you've been reading some news, Mr. Moore. Give it to me, baby.
Prove it. Right. Okay, here's one. This was talking about the supermarkets, but I think it applies to anyone. Big supermarkets should hand back almost £2 billion in business rates relief brought in during the coronavirus pandemic because they have been paying out dividends to shareholders. Discuss. Is there any discussion on that, or is that just the most obvious thing ever? If you have taken public aid in terms of anything, furlough loans, anything like that, you shouldn't be making any dividend payments, should you? Can we all just agree with that and move on?
I think that they have been the one industry that has been relatively unaffected by any kind of lockdown, and in fact, it has driven sales upward. Yeah. So for them to claim any sort of aid is Yeah, it's disingenuous, isn't it? What are they actually using it for, and who is being? Is this furlough money, by the way? Is this grants? What is it?
I think it was more about the grants, but I'm extending that out. Surely, if you're just getting any form of government aid, you shouldn't be then paying out shareholders. We're all in this together does not have a magic exemption for shareholders.
Yeah, now look, I think they're entitled to pay out shareholders. Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you why. Because they're making money. They shouldn't be taking the money off the other side, though. They shouldn't be taking that money out of the grants, but they're entitled to pay their shareholders. Okay. If I were one of their shareholders, I might think about leaving it till later. Yeah.
So this is as usual a government cock up more than anything, isn't it? It was not thought through. They should have made the point. Look, if you take anything of this, then you're not allowed to pay out dividends.
I don't know what. I mean, there are other companies such as.
What are you doing?
I've got a vendor coming to pick up keys.
Oh, okay. You're giving them the Normie and Co customer service then. There you go.
Thanks for buying that house. I hope
now fuck off. I'll see you in 7 years.
Hello again.
How's that for a drip campaign, you motherfucker?
No, the guy said, look, I'm running a bit late. I'll be in after 10. I said, look, I start a podcast at 10. I'm just going to leave them on the desk for you. Is that all right?
You did clean them, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I didn't gob on them.
Did you? I don't believe you. Okay,
but you've got other companies such as and we're talking big companies. You've got John Lewis. You've got who, and again they run supermarkets, but their supermarket side of the business is likely to be doing a lot better than their normal retail side of the business. And so people are reporting profits down. There are businesses that are genuinely suffering, but I don't think the likes of sort of Sainsbury's and Tesco and whoever, are really suffering at the moment in the same way that the rest of the country is. Well, here's the extension of that question. Estate agents are allowed to open, aren't they? And estate agents have been reporting phenomenal activity for sort of 4 or 5 months now. I think that's probably starting to cool off. There's a story on that later. But if that's the case, should they be claiming furlough?
Should they be claiming furlough?
Because it's likely to be seasonally slower this time of the year anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of agents will be planning to use that. So again, you've always got these ethical questions, but I think that as far as the supermarkets are concerned, and certainly the big ones that have made, continued to make really good money off the pandemic. And let's face it, we've needed them. How much paper have you bought?
Do you know how I get really, really not nervous, agitated, whatever else? Christopher Watkins described me as a bit like Boris, and I got a little bit sick in my mouth. But am I at risk here of being a bit of fuck business? And actually, what I'm getting annoyed about is it's clearly actually big business that when they take advantage of these things should be treated in a different light. I'll give you an example. Obviously, when all the Premier League clubs, many of them, including mine, were first, Liverpool, went and obviously they furloughed a load of normal staff, the groundskeeper, coffee ladies, all that, keeping the players, the Mo Salahs of the world, on hundreds of thousands and millions of pounds a week and a month in some cases. Clearly, that caused outrage and went down like a lead balloon. Is that just the same, I suppose?
I suppose it is, but you know what? This is an interesting segue to another article that I saw this week, actually, in the Negotiator. So, in this week's Negotiator, there was an article with James Monroe of the NTSELAT, which is easier. It's such a catchy acronym, isn't it? But basically, he says the government is mulling over how to ensure agents' clients understand how referrals work, and in trying to pinpoint the root of the problem, James Monroe says, my team is less interested when agents earn a commission from working with a supplier to enable a transaction and are more focused when they take half of a £500 fee for doing very little work other than referring a customer to a supplier, he says. Now, I've got a problem with that, since when we live in a world where what you earn is directly related to the amount of work that you put into it.
No, that's
right?
That's great, isn't it?
And why a government mandated organization are going to police your hard work to earnings ratio? It just doesn't make any kind of sense at all.
Look, obviously, as a woolly champagne liberal, it's not for me to point out, but obviously that's what capitalism is meant to do, isn't it? If there is price gouging, profit margins to be made, capitalism tells us that companies will rush in, create competition, and take that out. So practice what you preach.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And let's put it this way. If members of the public have got a problem with paying an agent fees, referral fees, and I think you're going to find that they have, because I think it's just human nature. Nobody goes, oh, yeah, that's fine. It's all right. You're entitled to your cut as well. I think when you hear that somebody is effectively putting another layer on top of what you're paying, or you're paying for their referral, then you pay for it.
I disagree here, not least because the whole kerfuffle business model collapses if referrals are banned. No, I don't think if it is done in black and white, and there are a number of industries now, financial, where they probably even go over the top, in terms of how obvious they make it. As long as it's there and it's not over the top, it's all about just fairness again. I genuinely have my financial advisor, that sounds awful, but when he talks to me, he talks about obviously he's making his cut from it, and as long as he's not 10-20%, I'm in happy town.
Well, let's play that kerfuffle referral out. If I come to kerfuffle and I want to be introduced to a supplier, it's because I know that you're going to introduce me to the right person at the right level for my business, and you are, and I'm guaranteed a rate that I probably couldn't get if I went direct to that supplier myself. The fact that you're earning something off it, fair play. I don't care. That to me.
Okay, let me flip this back at you mofo. No, it's better than Watkins and Jerry's fight anyway. But no, it's okay. Then if it's in the agency world, then as long as the agency is genuinely delivering a service they're referring that is going to deliver, aka conveyancing, financial services, utilities, whatever, the onus is just to make sure that you are delivering a competitive service, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that to extend that argument one step further, when you buy an Apple laptop, because in this article, when James Monroe goes on to talk about what they're trying to do, when you offer your in-house financial services to a prospective purchaser, what James Monroe is saying is, no, they've got a right to shop around. They have got a right to shop around, James. I'm not stopping them from doing that. But within my environment, it is okay for me to introduce you to my brand. Now, it's interesting. When you buy an Apple laptop, you've got Apple Music. If you want storage, you're going to get it from Apple iCloud. Yes, you can go and get that storage from Dropbox or OneDrive or wherever you want. But Apple aren't going to go out their way to point that out. Why should agents have to?
What I love about this, he started we started off fighting and sparring in the middle. We've come to the middle of the boxing ring and we've just started kissing because we're actually in agreement here. This is the central point now of the biggest argument, isn't it, between loads of government agencies and the EU actually going at Apple at the moment and other of these huge Proptechs. Tech firms, because of that exact thing. Are you giving enough? Once you've created a monopoly, something like the App Store and everything else, to give your own product precedence there is what they're saying is a big part of the problem. And I can certainly understand that argument. Where it gets a bit tricky though, David, and this is why everyone's got involved anyway. It's when you present it as there is no choice. You've got to use XYZ conveyancing, or we won't put your offer forwards, or anything else like that. That's where it's clearly but that's all that needed to
be. When you call a well-known struggling corporate company to book a viewing and they say, sorry, we can't do that till you've had half an hour with our financial advisor.
Bearing in mind, I am chasing them for business, David, so please keep it anonymous.
And I just want to say to all struggling corporate companies, Kerfuffle is your partner in the hardest time.
By the way, just say, what was the name of that government agency, the one with the massive acronym? And I did say
NTSELAT, I think, and Entisalat, and Entisalat.
It sounds like a terrorist organisation against dyslexics. It's awful.
The only difference between the trading standards for the estate agents and a terrorist organisation is a terrorist organisation have a very clearly defined set of goals and really good funding, whereas this government organisation doesn't seem to have either.
Okay. Can I go on to the second news story now?
Please.
Okay, I'm going to try and do, if anyone saw the Moneypenny webinar, you'll know how good I am in technology. I want to see if you remember this. Wait a minute.
Are we watching this? Are we meant to be watching? You get this on the Estate Agents podcast.
Right. That was actually, one of the wonderful things on YouTube where they turn those into like 1,000-hour-long things. Right. Okay, the tune seems to be known everywhere, not always for the right reasons. In Oklahoma, 3 jail employees were charged last month with cruelty for allegedly forcing handcuffed inmates to listen to it on repeat for hours. By the way, that's definitely something Priti Patel would do to a civil servant, isn't it? Fucking listen to this, you motherfuckers. And then in West Palm Beach, Florida, city officials used it to drive away the homeless.
We've set a little Byfield off dancing.
Yeah, properties, Mr. Tumble. Don't let me near him.
You shouldn't be let near kids. I tell you who else possibly shouldn't be let near kids. Andy Overman on today's EA podcast. He was trying to compare you to the 90s icon Mr. Motivator. He could not remember his name, so he described him as an energetic, darker gentleman.
I missed that.
Which to me couldn't get any more. I mean, I'm sure he didn't mean it, but
Thetford's Alan Partridge delivers again. I love you, Andy.
And of course, we're going to look at some American politics now. And Barack Obama was obviously one of, Andy Overman has described him as a darker politician. But I've been listening to him this week, and he describes what he thinks is a sort of a reaction to people of color getting into positions of power. And he sees that the Trump rise to power was almost a direct answer to that.
Kickback.
So where are we now? We were all doing dances in the street 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Most of us have forgotten about it. Who's running the free world?
Just a minute though. Why is it okay for Obama to say people of color and you don't give it the same kind of giggle that you did there? Is that just again?
No. I think that you can say people of color, and I think you can say black, but I don't think we're any more allowed.
You know those points where you get older and obviously get more conservative.
You know how your grandma would have said.
Don't say it.
She would have used that. Yeah, she would have used that word. You can say people of color, but you cannot say. And that's exactly where we're going with this.
I was just about to utter those famous words, it's political correctness not gone mad. And do you know what? I was thinking about those this week when Obama was on. Look what a perfect segue that is. I am desperate for the return to the days where, you know, you heard all the bigots shouting exactly that. We actually haven't heard that this last 4 or 5 years because the bigots have been allowed to actually do whatever they want. Nobody's been telling them, have they? You can't say that anymore. You can't do it. So lots of them have come crawling out of their rocks and come up with all of this stuff. Now, in terms of your direct question there, I'm loving it. It's like Trump is like death by a 1,000 paper cuts. He's genuinely gonna have to be dragged out of there, which I endorse. I think there's been now over 20 legal challenges. He's only won like 1 or 2 of them on a minor level. The idea he's overturning, I know that the electoral system works, the electoral thing works like that, but the fact is that he's still 6 million ahead, isn't he? He's 6 million ahead in terms of there. It ain't happening. And even now, even Republicans are turning on him to a degree and saying, look, you know, you've got to give up, haven't you? Who's actually going to tell him in the White House to get out? That's the amazing one.
It's just getting embarrassing. And I think it's getting embarrassing for the Republicans. I think it's getting embarrassing for his family. If the rumors are to be believed, Melania has had that bag packed for about 2 weeks already.
Have you seen Pickford's had a brilliant advert with her kind of at the White House with one of their trucks ready to go? It's like, time now, let's get out of here. Did you see that though? Did you see what Biden did the other day, which I thought was quite clever? He has, I mean, I'm sure he's actually doing it because Trump's stopping transition. Biden's not able to legitimately pick up the interim, talking to people about how to handle corona. So yet again, Trump is, potentially putting Americans' lives on the line. And do you know what? I just read again today. Trump hasn't met the what's their version of what's the group who get together? We've got the SAGE group, haven't we? He hasn't met. He hasn't met
coronavirus task force.
Yeah, he hasn't met their version for 5 months. He hasn't gone to any briefing in 5 months there. I don't know why I am surprised, but
I think if you can read Donald Trump Jr.'s comments this morning, I think he was diagnosed with the Rona. So he comments that I've got the Rona. I'm going to have to spend a couple of days indoors. I'm going to spend time cleaning my guns. And I don't think he means he's polishing these babies.
Yeah, I'll have to watch my words because people don't like wishing death on other people. But no, I wish death on him. No, let's just be honest. Come on, Karma, deliver a truly knockout blow here that we can all point back to.
I don't think that's going to happen because I think he's probably got the best medical care in the universe that money can buy. However,
do remember, fuck Wittery is one of the shielded groups.
Well, there you go. Tom McGee, there isn't a single fucking scientist on it anyway. Do you know who I did really love? What was the name of their doctor dude?
Fauci.
Fauci, what a legend that man is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. By the way, Tom, can you just tone down the language? We now find out children are watching.
This is the Sunday morning show,
Yeah, no, Fauci's been great. One of the scariest things, I mean, genuinely, the whole Trump, what do they call them, the get-togethers or whatever else, when he has his mass meetings. When they started, lock up Fauci, it's fine when they're doing it about Hillary, but when they're genuinely saying, stop, whoa!
Okay, well, there's an interesting talking about coronavirus. We'll take it into this. There's an interesting piece in the Negotiator this week, and it's a guest blog from some people's favorite industry character, some people's not. But it's Steve Wayne from Benjamin Stevens.
Okay, yeah.
And he is talking about the government basically telling agents that they're okay to go out and work during the lockdown. I'm going to just post his comments on screen here. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
So he says, now I understand the value the housing market has to the government and the economy, but to me, it made no sense that even with all our high levels of COVID, health and safety procedures we have implemented, we can still go house to house with clients who have been who knows where doing who knows what.
Yeah.
So effectively, That's a very good point. We described it previously. I think that we were sort of the sacrificial lambs of the economy, but genuinely, I think agents have demonstrated that they can do it as safely as they possibly can. But to me, this is why this sort of lockdown doesn't feel like a proper lockdown, because it's sort of a light lockdown, isn't it? Where you can send people into different houses, and also you can send kids to school.
Yeah, it's like being lightly pregnant. I tell you what, though, you talk about there about you're quite right about it's been proved to look, nothing's safe if you're meeting up, but the fact there hasn't been a single tabloid news story, with this, with somebody, imagine a estate agent kills vendor. I mean, it's just like the Sun's dream story, isn't it? The fact that there hasn't been anything like that does show how well people have been sticking to the guidelines.
Absolutely, and I think most people have been sticking to the guidelines, and more importantly, I don't think an awful lot of us are working from home, but you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that the team.
Well, offices obviously that have got keys in them, as you just ably showed, obviously most people have tended to put it back to head office, move keys from regional offices back there. I've been surprised at the amount of offices, but it does seem some people have just taken the opportunity to, now that they're all, I mean, this is the thing, aren't they? They are all now remote warriors. First time round, you might not have had your infrastructure in place. Now, you can be literally working anywhere and get access to 90% of your kit bag.
And now that Kerfuffle are doing webinars every hour on the hour, 7 days a week.
Oh, what is it
going on with you? 9 o'clock in the morning.
Somebody asked me the other day. The fact is, obviously, it's a business, allegedly. But secondly, because I'm such a train spotter, I just really enjoy it. I just love, I'm even starting to love compliance-based products.
Well, honestly, the enthusiasm that you show when listening to somebody talk about gas safety checks and checking smoke alarms, to me, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
But I tell you what it is it's like, obviously famously for anyone who does know the story, I used to pretend that I was an estate agent because you lot were very unforgiving as a massively handsome young man, a salesperson who had no experience of estate agency, didn't actually know technical shit or that, and was pretty shit at sales. I had a lot going against me. So I did what was called a little tour of duty, and I went and spent a day or two in Lane Fox, Dackerson and Hartley, GA Property Services, as it was known back there, basically made tea for a few days. And that presented me with my cover story for years to come. Oh, yeah, I've been an agent for about 8 minutes. But yeah.
No, I can tell that you've not. I can tell that you're not an agent. You've got a very high level of self-esteem.
Yeah, not always.
It takes a special kind of personality to become an agent. Let me tell you that. And to stick with it.
Yeah,
is the important thing.
I tell you what, one thing that you are just talking about consistency in terms of going through though. Everyone is. I really get now what our obviously mentor, the man himself, Mr. Watkins, says. The property video guys, Matt and Chris England here is. When I first started doing it, I thought, well, look, surely there's just loads of doing it here. And those guys challenged me and they said, well, look, is there anyone actually doing it in your direct area? Because you might be seeing loads of videos on there. And this, by the way, is equally true for agents. Is there literally anyone doing it in your catchment area? And doing it in the way that you, just because, look, we've got a very different style, haven't we? We've had our friends on the Estate Agency podcast there. They are not just replicas of each other's shows, are they? So the key thing is, loads of people start it. You will see a barrage of streams and everything else, and they just disappear off again. The people, who continue doing it week after week, which, as we are always told, is when it actually starts working, are the ones that obviously get that consistency right.
It's hard. You need to pop your cherry and you need to keep going because it's a horrible, very daunting space to be in where it's just you and a camera. I mean, I love it because I'm a narcissist and I love listening to myself and seeing myself on screen.
I know.
In fact, my wife rolls her eyes and just, you're listening to yourself again. But genuinely, for some people, they cannot stand it, and so those first few sort of sessions that they do, I tell you who's doing. She's been doing loads recently. Is Zoe?
Yeah, she's great. She really. Where is she today? Actually, she's not ordinarily.
I don't know, but Zoe's been doing. She's going to keep going for 100 days apparently, and she's proven that she will interview anybody about anything.
Yeah, I love
me on talking to the people of Bedford about my moustache.
She's not this generic. Why do we suddenly start getting generic Facebook users? Do you know why that suddenly started?
Yes, I know why that is. It's very possible that those Facebook users are coming via the newly implemented and launched Kerfuffle group for agents, which you set up. And I think that we need to alter the settings ever so slightly so that it then shows people's names.
You're saying it's me then, are you? That's basically...
What I'm saying is you set up that group in the wrong way. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sharon Carter hates being on video, but Sharon Carter, I've got to say, made a name for herself on... she made a name for herself in general, but particularly she was on... Stephen Brown's Lunchtime Learnings.
Yeah.
And he credits her with being one of the wisest people he's ever spoken to in the industry. And she is a very, very wise lady indeed.
Okay, Sharon. Well, we've got to give it obviously a bit of time so that we can forget you've been on Stephen's show, but we'll definitely get you on board and it'll be a much better experience for you. We are the best at smoke blowing. Nobody.
He's turned into Trump again. It's gonna be
Tiny hands.
What else have you seen in the news? Can I go back to bullying very quickly?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Do you not think that bullying now it's sort of high profile? We always linked bullying to sort of playground scenarios and school environments. Possibly it extended out to the football pitch and places like that. But has bullying been alive and well in businesses and corporate environments for a long, long time?
Yeah, of course.
And in effect, what Priti Patel's been doing is actually, if you were to go and examine the working structure of any corporate estate agency today in terms of how the managers treat the new negs, etc., will we see a bit of evidence of bullying?
I think I've seen a host of people that ordinarily I would very, very much respect who have been pressed. You know, the power of viewing what that like says, where somebody doesn't go and put a comment on either a Facebook post or a tweet, but you can tell them massively endorse that. So I'm always giggling at the people who are like every one of Trump's comments, but they won't actually say they like him. The amount of people that came out with people who were making the statement about Priti, she's just doing what she has to do to get through these shithead civil servants. I think it shows that there is a tacit level of support there for her because people have gone through this in the business world themselves.
As Christian says, bullying.
He's dropped the C word. Kids.
Technically known. Is everywhere, sadly. It is, and there is that sort of overly aggressive behavior that people tend to use. We get it a lot. Sometimes you get a customer who doesn't like the answer that you've given them, particularly with, COVID, when that came around and we had to start introducing new rules for viewings and stuff like that. You got the odd one or two people who were extremely bullshit about it.
Yeah.
And their attitude and the way that they speak to people. Bullying in the workplace is right. A little like hazing in the morning is, it's character building. Josh is the man he is today due to the, the treatment he's received from me.
Yeah.
It keeps him on his toes.
Do you hit him with the Full Metal Jacket line? How tall are you? 5'10". I didn't know they stack shit that high.
But there is, you know what? That sort of rhetoric comes from an age. Have you ever heard your sort of parents' generation talk about character building stuff? Yeah. which was basically an excuse to treat you like shit, hoping that it's going to inform your character as you grow older. I'm not sure it's such a healthy thing.
I think one of the sad effects has been, and we're only just getting out of it now, as you know, and we are the only people here that have fought for feminism in this industry. We were doing this way before it became fashionable. The problem is where actually it affects as well, even in that area, that women who feel that they feel they have to out-bully, or they do have to copy the worst male traits to be perceived as one of the gang, everything else, which is not obviously what you actually need them for on the board, which is just for their unique skills and everything else. So that's where it gets absolutely shot. And I've seen some shocking, Priti Patel style activity there. So it's taking a while for that just to sort itself out. And
Sharon seems to echo that. Is it bullying, or is it women being tough in a tough world, just being criticised for being male?
Yeah,
but I've been criticised so much, and I honestly think it's because I'm a bird. But that's it. I think there is, and that's why I've been very hesitant to jump on Priti Patel, so to speak, because I do think that a lot of it, in some cases, is racially motivated. I think that a lot of it is also sexist. So it's hard to separate that out.
Yeah. So yet again, you're accusing me of being a racist live on the show. That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Ella. Hope Josh is treating you okay this weekend. Right. Sharon Carter. And P.S. I'm not one of those overly feminist camps. Okay, fair enough.
Don't worry, Sharon. I didn't think for 1 minute you were. You're all right, bloody. I hope she's not talking about us. Jesus.
And the end result of that character building is weirdos who want to be disciplined by Kirsty also. Honestly. I wanted to chastise me for getting crumbs in the bed.
Tom just sits here all show waiting to show the mirror back to ourselves at the end of it, doesn't he? See that? You see what you just said? That's you, that is.
Jez Lee, the wonderful Jez Lee and I, and Ryan Wolfenden. Yes. This very weekend, we have created some fantastic market-leading Proptech, which I'm not able to even reveal right now on this show because it's not the place and it's not the time.
It was the wrong time for me to take 24 hours out of that WhatsApp group, wasn't it? I left it and there was just funny gifs going on. I came back and there was a full Dragon's Den pitch.
But do you know what? I honestly believe that it's humorous, but it's going to work in the same way that booming is going to work. The world is full of people who think that shouting loudly will get them what they want. Bullying may be being a knob, definitely.
What I love there is that I obviously refer to Jez as the BFG, big friendly giant there. Just before people start making their own words up, and Jez is a classic example there. If he wanted to be a bully, a dominating character, it'd be like fucking Darth Vader because he's such a big fella. But Jez is one of the nicest characters ever, and doesn't have to, go down that route to do it. Now, some people will obviously say maybe that's because he is 7'2", but I wouldn't say that.
He's a gentle. You know what? When they write about him in the local newspaper, they'll describe him as gentle giant. That's what they'll call him.
He is
gentle giant.
Although he is funny once he blows, he does blow. So,
but in the most sort of intelligent and erudite manner, he is just incredibly posh. Yeah, incredibly.
He is. I do realise now. I just said when he blows, and that again's gonna come.
Right. Whilst I've got all of you on the show, because I know that you're going to run out of energy and concentration, and when I say you, I'm actually talking to Simon. Let's talk booming, because it's been in the news. This week they famously released their charging structure. There we go. Do you want to put that comment back up? Simon and I discussed Priti Patel has strong links to Israel and is a conservative, is a massive hate figure for the momentum left. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yes, she is, Tom, but don't spoil our tactics.
Going back to Boomin, who are a bigger threat than Priti Patel. No, going back to Boomin. So in terms of their charging structure, so they released that this week, and it's a little bit confusing, but if you read it for the fourth time, you can make some sort of sense of it. A lot of agents like Boomin so far. A lot of agents like the look of it. A lot of agents like the fact that they're going to be able to earn residual income over a period of years. Not everybody has read all the small print. I was extremely skeptical about it because of and again, this is the overriding comment. It's not the concept, and it's not what it does, and it's not even the data. It is the people behind it that people are skeptical of, because obviously they come with that purple stain on them. And if you and I actually called somebody in the industry, I'm not going to say who it is, but it's an industry supplier who to get his take on it, and they were, I've got to say, quite charmed by the Boomin presentation. They like what they see, and the comment was, look, this isn't for the likes of you and me. This is for the Instagram generation. This is for people who don't really care about handing over their data and having it used to feed them stuff that they like, because that's what they're giving up when they're on Instagram anyway. And there are a lot of people that are skeptical about it, and it tends to be because of the people behind it. But I think that you're going to find that a lot of people will sign up to it, and I think they're going to put a tremendous amount of money into advertising it and getting it out there to that audience. So
that will get, without a shadow of a doubt, like first time round, it'll generate a huge amount of leads. And whilst it's a virtuous cycle and the investor money is driving that and it grows, that's everything that's everything perfect. The point isn't it, is if it doesn't reach the profitability point, at the moment that journey ends, what happens then? That's a question to you.
Oh, to me or to the audience in general?
No. They can't answer me back. We don't have that technology yet. So, yeah.
Okay.
It is really,
I'm a man, and I was reading other people's comments whilst you were making that one. So could I ask you to repeat the question, please?
Brilliant. So, fucking hell, what was my point? Look, once the investor money is driving the leads, everything's good. Yeah. But like it did first time around, with Purple Bricks, what happens when it hits, the bump in the road? And now, obviously, Purple Bricks is reforming, it's rephrasing. It's still by far the biggest lister in the country. But what do you care about that? Do you just get on the train, as it were, and enjoy it whilst it does, and then just review as you would with
I think it's not necessarily about the agents staying on that train. It's whether or not the drivers of that train are going to stay on board. So the question should be put to Michael and Kenny Bruce, that when the going gets tough, are they going to jump ship like they did with Purple Bricks effectively? I think they probably I think they took it as far as they possibly could. Yeah. Decided that certain things weren't working, certain expansion wasn't working, and then they decided to jump.
Yeah, look, did you read all the Mark De Silva's interview with them on the key questions? There was 10 key questions. The 10th one was.
On that note, and this is a message to Mark De Silva and everybody else that is currently working at the Property Industry Eye. Remember fondly, Roz. She had journalistic integrity and standards. When did you guys turn into a walking advert? Those FAQs are published by Boomin on their website. You've copied them verbatim and decided that that's an interview. It ain't, buddy. It's an advert.
Well, all I was going to say is number 10 was, will you ever deal directly with vendors and purchases and cut out agents? He says, no, never. And that's as explicit as it comes. It shows everything, though, doesn't it? That people, that as explicit as that is, that people still have questions. So I think the question that needs to be put by a certain pink-based podcast is asking the guys there themselves, look, the elephant in the room is, of course, is what you've done previously there, and people can't get past that. And look at Stephen's comment there. That is, I would imagine, that is hugely representative of probably the majority of the English. Very sceptical of booming, and yet signed up obviously free for the future, but I'm not sure 100%. And I've heard time and time again the phrase "no-brainer" whilst it's here. I've heard another smaller audience that have said they wouldn't get involved at all until they knew there was certainty as to what the costs will be like. That's now obviously out of the way there. But for me, that point there is, how do you get people, Michael, Kenny, how do you get people past that last thing? How do you, ultimately, the only way that they can do it is over time, isn't it?
And this question ably posed by Mr. Oliver James, friend of the show. He's asking, they want access to the CRM. So this goes back to, there's a difference between gold members and platinum members. And I think that the platinum or premium members, however they refer to them, will have to allow unfettered access to the CRM, because it allows people to book viewings directly through Boomin, and there'll be white labeled confirmation messages sent out under your banner, but it will ostensibly come from Boomin, and they will have to accept Boomin's terms and conditions. I am deeply uncomfortable about allowing that level of access, despite them saying, don't worry, we're not going to touch it.
And yet your old matey Murray Mintz, as I know him, obviously, and the whole boycott Rightmove group, they are throwing, it seems to me, tacit support behind booming, aren't they? But it's like the the enemy of my enemy is my friend approach. It seems, more than having considered the merits of the site itself.
I was a little bit, I've got to say, I was a bit disappointed with the Murrays. I love Murray to bits, I really do, and I think what they did, whipping up that little industry storm in a teacup, was very valuable, because they did help to bring about change for a very short time. And let's not forget, it's people like us with that first podcast that we did on the Rightmove changes, and them with galvanizing industry support, that actually brought to bear they put pressure on Rightmove capitulated, they gave everybody a hefty free period. Zoopla have been giving people dispensations. A lot of moaning this week on the industry groups from Zoopla customers, by the way. A lot of people didn't read their small print, so if you went for the super duper Zoopla discount, it was dependent on you dropping Rightmove. That was the whole thing. And it was written into that agreement. And the fact that your agreement is now renewed at 4,000 quid a day or something is due to the fact that you did not read your small print. So that's happened this week as well. But I was a little bit disappointed that they chose to sort of, out of all the industry heroes that we saw come and go, and all those challenger portals that are still sort of floating about out there. And again, I mentioned this before, Home Search were the blue-eyed boy of the industry. They seemed to be doing it for the right reasons. They had the right people, the right branding. They were going to switch it on in July.
We've got Sam at the top there that you could just absolutely throw your trust behind, couldn't you, as well?
I love Sam to bits, I really do. But it just seemed to fizzle out. And what bothers me about Home Search is and I think Boomin get this from day one, is that you need the public, not the agents. You need the public to buy into it in order for the agents to know that it's a product that they absolutely cannot live without. So Rightmove, as much as we don't like their practices or their prices, we stick with them because we cannot live without them.
Yeah. Well, because they've got the eyes of the audience.
Christian Byfield can, and Christian Byfield was very impressed by the Boomin production. It certainly looks amazing, and they do have a track record of establishing a heavy brand presence.
That's Michael Bruce with a cease and desist.
Hi, Michael. I'm just in the middle of a podcast now. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. And he's going to do that to me. Please, Kenny, no. I've got kids.
Do you remember that NDA point? So one thing I would just say there, Christian, obviously, at the risk of you being a permanent fixture, we're going to try and get a panel show out this week to discuss booming, and we're looking question time style for 3 people who are pro booming, 3 are anti booming. So if anybody is interested, just send your email into sugartits@kerfuffle. No, send it into simon@kerfuffle.com if you're interested in coming in, and just say whether you're pro booming at the moment or whether you have questions. So that I think that'd be quite an interesting one myself.
Bottom line, I'm going to call it now. Everybody will, by and large, help to make booming a incredible success, because we're all going to sign up to it, because we're all going to be given a free period. We're all extremely fickle, and we don't want to be seen to be missing out on anything.
Sorry, that's the bit. So some of the most cynical or suspicious, or some people would say wise people, that have said, look, I can't get past the original ownership and everything else there. There's too many questions there. Even those people who have been talking to me have been saying, but I see my competitors going on it, and I am worried about being left behind. And that's where, regardless of marketing and everything else, that's where they've got people in the right spot, when they've got all those different drivers to sign up happening.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think one of the things that people have been most impressed by, and this really interests me, and it says a lot about our industry, is when you talk to agents about whether or not they've had a booming presentation, the first thing they all tell you is, do you know, Michael and Kenny Bruce did it themselves.
I think that's good. I think it's a really clever angle. I think it's really back to the coal face, proving they're there. And by the way, I think they realise you've got to do that when you've got that level of question mark around it. If they didn't do that, that would be overlooked.
Because Gary Barker can't do it.
Apparently not. No, apparently not. So it's well. Do you know what? I think maybe I got it wrong. I would have imagined the one thing they aren't is they're not lazy. They know what's going on. They will realise that they had to put themselves, out there again to make this work in the way that they would have wanted it to.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the when you see them talking on this video, it's clear that they're passionate about it. They don't necessarily just refer to themselves as the Purple Bricks founders, but they also talk about their agency experience before that, and that's interesting because a lot of us don't remember the beginnings, if you like, of the Bruce Empire. Interesting. So, talk to me a little bit about Repeat, if you are contractually allowed to.
I certainly am, my friend. Independence Day has come and gone.
Movers and shakers. So Gary Barker sadly departed due to personal reasons, quote unquote. And you now have a new king in town.
You do. Mark Armstrong, who has joined, will be actually. I only just saw this, but I didn't realise he was only actually starting on the start of next year. Adrian Gill, who's been running the shop as acting CEO, ex-LSL, Roman CEO, Connells, has been really looked after that business as well. Whilst Gary has gone, and he's moved over. Very heavy, massively heavy hitter by all accounts. Looking at there, wasn't he? Rimini Street. I don't know too much about them, but if you look back on his background, he's a true big corporate hitter. Our friend Sean Adams, though, made the point in one of the groups. Does he have property expertise? As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't. Is that important when you're running now what is a genuine international magnate? I'm not sure it is. All he has to have is empathy and understand how to run a business. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, we know they have challenges like any business. They've got they're in a very different space of growth at the moment there. I think anyone would be saying they need to listen to people like your good self, obviously there, that have had an experience with Repeat and are not feeling a 10 out of 10 in a 10 out of 10 place.
Yeah, I think with Repeat they had to be careful because obviously very well publicized buyout and some very well publicized departures initially. Who can forget that day when you appeared in the Property Industry Eye to tell us all what we may have suspected? But what was interesting, and by the way, Property Industry Eye posts normally full of venomous comments. The outpouring of love that you got that day was Sickening.
It was good, wasn't it? Do you know how long it took me with my multiple profiles to put those comments?
I bet. But when you make such high-profile appointments or disappointments, as they call them, and you've got that takeover, I think for your existing customer base, they want to know that it's business as normal, that they're going to keep receiving high levels of customer care, and certainly the high levels of customer care that they would have attributed to the people that had left. You'd want to keep that up, and unfortunately, to me at least, Repeat seemed to downgrade the level of service and support that they were offering.
They lost their secret sauce, doesn't it? Well, how I would have, that you look, yes, everyone's talking about software as a service, but the reason, George, who left the greatest ever. Can I read out again, being a bit sort of?
Please go for it.
So George Steed, my old boss, the founder of Repeat, for the first time ever, as far as I'm aware, as long as it definitely was him, and I'm reading the way he wrote, I certainly think it was. He came up with some quite on the edge of the seat comments. He said, "Since the sale of Repeat to the Americans, I've been sorely tempted on many occasions to make comments, but having read some inaccurate and frankly stupid comments, I break my silence to say, luck has nothing to do with running a company. A software company like Repeat has many employee prima donnas, and it's skill and experience that is needed to manage such a company." Now, this is the best bit. He actually calls me Wally, which I think is not.
It's what we all been calling you for years.
Wally is one of the best and brilliant salesmen, but he needed managing, as he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. So it goes on. My advice to the new CEO is to be very careful of the Americans. And then actually Robert May, who we were talking about earlier, said, "I've previously said it was someone's genius to let Simon be Simon." Well, maybe not. He communicates and still does at agent level. This time last year, Reaper had the world at their feet, and with Gary going, that changed. But to my mind, Adrian Gill has been a good caretaker, and AKK have chosen well. They certainly didn't pay too much any attention to the people who reckon they could smash it out of the park. As others have found, it's the Americans who have to be mindful of agents. He's talking obviously about previous.
Well, there's a new contender in town, and if you listen to the word on the street, it is street. So Oliver's looking forward to seeing street.
You've seen it?
I've not only I've seen it. I can't confirm or deny whether I've gone further with it, but I have to tell you this: it's an extremely impressive piece of equipment. It looks good. It's user-friendly. It gives you all sorts of bells and whistles. It allows you to do a mail merge from pretty much anywhere on the planet without having to have a special type of email account, Repeat. What the fuck? And effectively, it should work out the box. And it looks really impressive. But I think one of the most impressive things about Street is the company and the people behind it. Heather and her brother Tom and everybody else that we've met at Street and Spectre seem to be extremely passionate about their product, about improving it. They have a tremendous amount of devs working on it. I think whilst everybody was offloading development staff, they were taking on new staff and working on it. And there seems to be a waiting list for it, which is always a good sign. Although not the best of signs if you are Tom McGee has been waiting, I think, 16 years now for Repeat to be delivered by OSL.
Yes, it's like
the best comes to those who wait. It's like in communist Russia when you used to order a car. It used to take like something like 9 years to arrive.
Who's made the point? You may have made it before. It's like building a nuclear submarine. It really isn't a nuclear submarine, is it? Look, a certain brilliant Proptech Willy Wonka said at EA Masters recently that Spectre was one of those genuinely transformational. Street was one of those transformational things once in a decade. There, I stand by it. I genuinely, when the first time I saw it, it was one of those wow factors. It wasn't like me faking it on most of my shows. Oh, that's interesting. It was genuinely get the fuck out of here. It does stuff that people have. When I used to sit in certain meetings with techies, and they'd say, "Oh, Simon," I'd ask for something, and they'd say, "Back in the real world, Heather and Tom have gone out there. Christ knows how they've managed to keep a lid on this for 3 years, because I would have just, rushed it out. the fact they haven't, the fact it's so, it seems to me so beyond minimum viable product stage is really, and isn't it the launch this week? I think. I think
the official launch. But I think what's interesting to me is that Heather and Tom have got family estate agency background. So Heather was our very first guest on the Kerfuffle Podcast. So you can catch that on YouTube. The episode is still there, and she'll tell you about how she got into doing whatever she's doing today. But if you look at the background, their dad runs an agency. And to me, it is a little bit comforting that they've guinea pigged him first.
It's like the vaccine, isn't it? Go and give it to your granny first. Here you are.
Well, it irons out all the kinks. Yeah. Phil Prince is with us. He's part of the street group. It's a Tuesday launch.
You didn't do that properly there, David. Let's do that properly. So okay. So yes, wait a minute. Stop fighting me. It's Mars and everything. For disclosure, I work at the street group, and then obviously Oliver with classic timing there. For disclosure, I work at Oliver James. Phil, if you are, can you please fast track my application to view your launch, because I don't want to be left out. I don't want to be left out. So yeah, look, it's very exciting, very good. I think we're going to have a chat with Heather. I don't know if Tom's going to manage to join afterwards. You're welcome to jump on, actually, David. Either the day afterwards, just to ask a few questions, because I thought, that they've got this just hugely exciting opportunity now, and it's really, there seems to be a perfect storm of where other CRM systems are, what they're doing, and what the mindset of agents is. That they've got to just make sure that they take full advantage of it, haven't they? And I know they more than anyone are really, really conservative in not wanting to overpromise and overdeliver in a way that Simon Whale has for 30 years.
Well, what's really interesting, this comment by Christian sums it up, and obviously Christian is both agent and also Proptech guru as well, and they have a very successful product, the depository, but MVPs are seriously overrated. FOP, fully operational product, is the way to go if you know what you're building for whom. And I think for years, us agents have been we've been beta testing pretty much everything that's been thrown at us over the years. Yeah. I'm not going to name them now because I don't think I should. Should I? I don't know. I can. But basically, I had a very bad experience with a CRM company. They had a very, very flashy product. It seemed to do everything that we wanted it to do. But I was of the opinion that we were being used to beta test all the kinks out of it. Yeah. So to sit there, pay full whack for something for 2 years whilst they're still ironing out all the kinks and making it work, it's not what we want and it's not what we deserve. You wouldn't buy a car, would you, on the basis that the brakes will eventually work? We're working on that. Just don't drive it too fast.
Great analogy. Yeah. A morning after pill that may or may not work. Actually, I don't know why I went there. That's terrible. No, absolutely. And look, the thing I've said is, and I'm glad Christian jumped up at that. He was, as he knew, obviously, me being a lettings agent, a lettings expert, as Jez always tells me. Because of my LinkedIn profile, he was kind enough to invite me down to the launch of, obviously, to show the depository there. And I've remarked on it many times, but I've never minded repeating myself. The fact that this initial launch, and it really was just was so way beyond what my understanding of a minimum viable product was, is testament to that. I think this really exciting new form of Proptech, this new model where it is people who have come from the industry and are launching it. It shortcuts that whole minimum viable product. So obviously Heather and Tom know because of her father, they live and breathe it. Keaton's, Kai, and Area. You've got Mike Nettleton who's launching now and updating a new form. So this is the most exciting period I can talk about now. Of where technology is going, away from the whole ivory tower fuckwittery of Proptech.
I think you're right, and I think there's a whole special webinar podcast behind this. It's this new way of looking at things. Previously, people have rushed a product out to market because, let's face it, Proptech and any kind of tech these days is an extremely competitive space. And whilst you're working on a new product, the one thing that's keeping you on your toes and you're shitting yourself about is the fact that whilst you're working on it, somebody else may actually launch it. So you force it out to the market to claim that first. But I don't think you need to do that anymore. I think if you go out there with a solid product that's tested, it's stable, it's beyond what you'd call beta, you're going to win.
Yeah. Okay, we're now at 17 hours of broadcast. And what charity were we doing this for again? This permanent broadcast.
We're now going for 24 hours. It's for Movember. If none of you have donated to my lovely Movember thing, we're going to post the link very shortly in the comments. I want to see you all get out your wallets because men's lives and their illnesses also, need funding. So please give generously.
Hang on a minute. Christian's just come up with it. I can't count the number of times I was told, just get it out. You can figure it out as you go. That was on a night out with me, Christian. So just give some context behind that. Right. So whilst people are getting their wallets out, David, can I leave you with a masturbating man?
I'd love you to leave us with a masturbating man. It sounds
okay. Let me. So obviously I went to public school and I'm pretty cultured. So I love my my classics, and obviously Pompeii was a horrific experience here. And they've brought out a few more photos of the people that were entombed, obviously, when Vesuvius exploded there. They asked the page today in I think it was the Observer, obviously lefty newspaper. Was this couple found here? Were they master and slave? Now, I'll leave you to judge. Were they master and slave there, David, or was there very much something else going on?
See, I've often thought that I'm just going to take off our branding for a second, just so we can see that more clearly. I'd often hoped that if I were to go out, I'd go out my finest, having a cheeky one whilst my slave has died in the corner. That's what I did. What the hell is going on there?
Oliver James, he had cramp. It's absolutely great. And also, I've got one more on here because actually, there was a lot of dodgy shit going on in Pompeii, and it was. I think, if I'm right, actually, if my classical, it was pretty much a party town of what's it? I was going to say. What was the place? What was the city in your old homeland where all naughtiness went on?
Oh, Sodom and Gomorrah.
It was pretty much a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. So let me just show you this one. If you think that one was bad, have a look at this. This is truly filth. Here we go. He's not even trying to hide it.
But let's face it, when faced with certain death and mortality, it reduces men down to their very, the very roots of their being. We break down what it means to be a man. And what we found in this country with the pandemic, it means going to the toilet. So we went to buy toilet paper. In Pompeii, clearly it's having one off the wrist.
It is. By the way, you got Jess Lee again. He's come back with on the other one. Chap on the left.
Well, Mr. Lee.
And I think we can say about this fella, he's probably turned to stone after watching Whaley on podcast for 17 hours.
I think he is actually smiling, isn't he?
You can tell. I think it's wonderful. What a way to go into the afterlife.
Do you know what I want to do? I want to Photoshop an iPhone into his other hand because let's face it.
Do that and put our podcast on.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that amazing bombshell, I don't think we can do anything but to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Catch the Kerfuffle webinars. They are on. There's one every hour. They're like a bus. If you miss one, you're going to catch another. There's a number of different suppliers you should definitely be talking to. If you haven't already booked your MOT, get one in.
Get on
Get
it.
in here. What are you doing?
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Love you all. Stay safe.
Take care.